He's the whistleblower whose revelations have the national security establishment reeling. What will happen to Edward Snowden? And will there now be reform of the US's surveillance operations? Plus, Walmart is the world's biggest retailer and makes vast profits. So can't it afford to pay its workers a better wage? You're watching Inside Story Americas from Washington. Hello, I'm Shihab Ratansi. He says he leaked details of the US National Security Agency's surveillance program to, quote, protect basic liberties for people around the world, end quote. Edward Snowden is now in Hong Kong. A spokesman for the Director of National Intelligence says the case has been referred to the US Department of Justice, where it will be treated as a criminal matter. Speaking to the Guardian newspaper, Snowden made clear he was fully aware of the risk he has taken, but that he had no choice but to act.
I'm no different from anybody else. I don't have special skills. I'm just another guy who sits there day to day in the office, watches what's happening, and goes, this is something that's not our place to decide. The public needs to decide whether these programs and policies are right or wrong. And I'm willing to go on the record to defend the authenticity of them and say, I didn't change these. I didn't modify the story. This is the truth. This is what's happening. You should decide whether we need to be doing this.
David Colapinto is a lawyer who's represented a number of whistleblowers in both the public and private sectors. He joins me now. President Obama said he welcomed the debate that has been inspired by Snowden's allegations, but do you feel this debate is actually happening as to the extent of the surveillance state, or is the debate still mainly about how the whistleblower should be punished? What do you make of what's happening right now?
Well, if you're going to have a debate and then you're going to threaten prosecution of the person, what kind of a debate are you really going to have? Are you going to have a free and open debate, or are we going to threaten people who come forward with some details about what the government is up to? There has to be a protection for employees who come forward who have information about wrongdoing, illegal activities by government, even in the sphere of national security and intelligence agencies, which today is non-existent in the United States.
Given what Snowden revealed, though, do you feel that he would be eligible for whistleblower protection?
Well, there is none. I mean, his protection is the First Amendment to the Constitution. And the government has come up with all kinds of arguments that he's violating his oath to uphold classified information. They obviously would accuse him of violations of the Privacy Act, the Espionage Act, like they have other whistleblowers who have been caught communicating concerns to reporters.
But I mean, does he not also, though, have a constitutional duty to report wrongdoing?
Yes, that's the ultimate oath,
right,
isn't it, to the American people, that there presently is not a safe channel for people who have classified information who want to disclose wrongdoing. His major allegation, as we read the transcript in The Guardian, was his major motivating factor is he believes the NSA routinely lies to members of Congress when they question the NSA about the scope of this. That's whistleblowing.
And of course, we do have the video evidence of the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, saying that the NSA doesn't wittingly collect the information of US citizens, or the metadata or data of any sort, really. But now we know, of course, they are collecting all of this data. Are there legal implications here? Are there implications?
That's where the debate should be focused. The government would like to shift the conversation to accuse other people of wrongdoing when it is their own wrongdoing that should be discussed and examined before the American people.
But what do we do with this information? Is there now scope for a legal challenge? In the past, when the American Civil Liberties Union, took this all the way to the Supreme Court ruled that they had no standing in front of the court because they couldn't prove that US citizens were being surveyed, and they couldn't prove it because the program is top secret, or at least secret. Now, we do have this information. Is there now a legal avenue?
Well, we have more information than we had before. There is more standing for people who are Verizon business customers, for example, who could bring a claim against both the phone companies and the government for overstepping their bounds here. But the real issue is what is going to be the public debate about this. it really requires people who are citizens to continue public pressure. Most people go about their daily lives with perhaps even a passing thought of the government snooping on their emails or phone calls. But I think in the back of everyone's mind has always been, well, with all of the internet and the technological capabilities of the NSA, is that perhaps the government is collecting more than they're entitled to. That raises a major privacy issue for the American people, which Congress has refused to examine openly and publicly.
And so at the moment, though, the US government argument is, well, we may collect this or we may host this information, but we're not looking through it unless perhaps you do something wrong. Is that argument winning, do you think?
Well, I think most Americans don't even realize how much is being collected, and when someone like Mr. Snowden comes forward to give a glimpse of what is actually going on, they'll threaten prosecution in order to silence those who do know.
As far as Snowden is concerned, Hong Kong, there seems to be a mixture of opinion on whether that was a good choice or not. Where do you, as someone who protects whistleblowers, what would you say?
Well, it's very interesting because most whistleblowers are not faced with the choice of having to flee to a foreign country in order to talk to a journalist. Think about that for a minute. Why someone who is an American citizen would have to fly to Hong Kong, halfway around the world, in order to have a conversation with a reporter from the Washington Post or the Guardian. That just tells you a lot about the limited choices that he had under the U.S. law.
But is it a good choice?
Well, it was a good choice in the sense of he has more options available to him in terms of seeking political asylum, for example, and fighting extradition if he's in a foreign country. If he was in the United States, he'd probably be in custody today.
But and what, again, about the U.S., the U.S. argument is that we had a guest on Friday who accused Snowden of treason, even vaguely accused Glenn Greenwald of being a Chinese agent. I mean, we're going to hear a lot of these sorts of accusations. What do you make of that?
Yeah, the government is going to overreach in their arguments. They're going to argue that even the journalists who received this information are guilty of violating the Espionage Act. That'll be their next argument. The purpose of these is to chill other people from coming forward. That's the real reason they refuse to implement any safe and effective whistleblower channels for people who work in the intelligence agency to make these kinds of disclosures.
David Colapinto, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now to Walmart, one of the world's largest corporations, which held its annual shareholders meeting on Friday. Protesters took to the streets, calling for better conditions for employees and increased worker safety throughout the supply chain, following a deadly factory fire in Bangladesh. But as John Hendren reports from Fayetteville, Arkansas, the meeting was designed largely as a celebration.
It looked more like a pop-filled award show than a shareholders meeting. The surprise host, Hugh Jackman, star of Wolverine and singer of Les Miserables, here singing a different tune.
I got a beautiful feeling being with Walmart today.
Singers Kelly Clarkson
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
and John Legend manned the stage.
The best you ever had.
Then, for more Hollywood firepower, came Tom Cruise, full of praise for the world's largest private employer.
The culture that you have going here is really like no other, you know? So I'm very pleased to be here. I truly admire your company. You know, and the more I learn about everything that you do, I'm inspired by what you all create every day.
Despite all the celebrities, the Bud Walton Arena, named for a member of Walmart's founding family, was also a forum for conflict. Walmart workers, backed by hundreds of visiting protesters, complained of low wages.
When I think about the fact that our CEO, Mike Duke, made over $20 million last year, more than 1,000 times the average Walmart associate, with all due respect, I have to say, I don't think that's right.
It was an exercise in corporate democracy. Walmart executives, employees, and critics all have their say. But when it comes to making major decisions, that is always a foregone conclusion. The Walton family still owns enough shares to control the company. Complaints like this from a Bangladeshi worker calling for greater employee safety after an April factory fire and collapse in that country killed over 1,100 people were politely heard.
Walmart officials say its production was placed in this building without their knowledge, claim that it strained credibility. Even if true, this only proves that Walmart's supply chain is out of control.
The company considers those concerns it faces little risk of a shareholder rebellion to force its hand. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Fayetteville, Arkansas.
We spoke with one of the protesters, Jeremy Castle. He's a Walmart worker in Louisiana who's worked for the company for more than a year.
I ended up with Walmart because I didn't go to college, and I started working there, and I really like my job. Don't get me wrong, I love my job.
Can you make ends meet with your wages?
I work overnight. My pay it started off at $8.70. And now, since I made my year there, I had a 1-year evaluation. My pay rate is $9.10. After I'm done, me and my brother, we're roommates. And we pay half on everything. So once I'm done paying half on everything, I have $30 left to my name.
Many of the placards, though, that we see on these demonstrations, though, they don't seem to be talking about money. They're talking about dignity. Can you explain then why you aren't asking, why dignity seems to be more the major issue then, perhaps, in this campaign, rather than money or union membership?
Well, I believe respect goes a long way in life. You have to give respect to earn it. And respect is one of my biggest concerns. I mean, there's no way around. You have a manager and your manager is really disrespectful. I mean, it eats you up inside, because you're working for somebody that don't appreciate you for what you do. And it takes a lot out of you.
So you may be aware that Walmart had a pep rally that they organized. They bussed a lot of workers in. And Giselle Ruiz, the chief operating officer of Walmart, said that those who are protesting, people like you, were not working for Walmart, but were paid agents of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. What's your response?
That is not true. I am a Walmart associate. I work for Baker, Louisiana, store number 1102, overnight dry grocery stocker.
I'm joined from New York by Josh Idelson. He covers labor issues for The Nation magazine. And here in the studio, Stan Voiga, research fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Josh, you were at that shareholders meeting on Friday. Did you feel that the calls for dignity and equity were having much of an impact with the senior management there amidst all the razzmatazz?
Well, the ways that we've seen Walmart react so far are a few. One is this announcement that was made recently and repeated that the company says it's going to improve its scheduling system. The company, of course, does not cite our Walmart's activism in talking about that, but that change, as well as the increased emphasis this year at the shareholder meeting on employees, on Walmart's ideology of itself as a beacon of opportunity, as a place where you can achieve the American dream. Many of the activists involved who had been there last year saw as an implicit response, along with Walmart's private meeting with employees at which they were bashing the organization, an implicit response to what organizers have been doing, to these unprecedented strikes that we've seen throughout Walmart's supply chain over the past several months, including a larger one-day strike on Black Friday and then this smaller prolonged strike that brought workers across the country to Bentonville for a series of protests.
And very quickly, Josh, I mean, we talked to Jeremy Castle there, and he was talking about dignity. But what specific demands is this movement asking of Walmart?
So workers have called attention to issues in Walmart's international supply chain, including in Bangladesh, around safety and the right to organize for safety, around issues in Walmart warehouses, from clean drinking water to wages. These are warehouses where workers aren't directly paid by Walmart but are subject to the Walmart business model. And then in the retail stores, workers are organizing around demands regarding wages, which were pegged in one study at $8.81 an hour, as well as healthcare, staffing that they say both leaves workers exhausted and leaves customers underserved, and the right to organize around these issues without retaliation, something that Walmart has been alleged over the years and in recent months to use as a resort when workers try to organize to change these things.
Well, let's run through some of the numbers. The retail giant reported sales of $466 billion last year. Walmart employs 2.2 million people worldwide, more than the populations of 96 countries. The wealth of just 6 members of the Walton family, heirs to the Walmart fortune, is more than the household income of 41% of American families combined. But the average Walmart worker makes less than workers at some other stores, an average of $8.81 an hour, according to one study by Ibis World. And a new congressional report shows that Walmart is actually costing taxpayers millions of dollars per year. The House Committee on Education and the Workforce analyzed data from Wisconsin's Medicaid program and found that subsidizing health care for Walmart employees costs the state at least $900,000 per year. That's about $5,815 per employee at a single Walmart supercenter store. And those numbers have motivated California lawmakers to pass a law that would fine Walmart $6,000 for every full-time employee that enrolls for its Medicare or medical programs. Stan Voiser, there's nothing wrong with this?
I don't necessarily think so. So the things you've said are Walmart employees get paid broadly the same as retail employees in similar locations.
No, we won't actually. I think it's certainly other big box stores like Costco and
Costco is a very different store, of course. Right? Costco targets sort of a upper middle class audience. Walmart, of course, targets sort of the bottom of the market. Its products are cheaper. Its margins are much lower. Of course, it could convert itself into a Costco, but then the low-income customers it's serving now would not be served anymore.
Right.
But broadly, in sort of the general retail business that Walmart is in the states it's in, the locations it's in, it pays similar wages. As to the cost to the cost to the taxpayer of Walmart employees on Medicaid, I mean, to some extent, first of all, that's what Medicaid is designed to do. It's designed to help people with low incomes. The EITC is even more explicitly meant to make work pay and sort of subsidize relatively low-income workers. And look, there's only two things you can do. Either you abolish Medicaid, you abolish the EITC, and those workers are worse off, or you force Walmart to pay them more, in which case Walmart will probably be forced to fire them.
But is that necessarily true? Isn't there a multiplier effect of raising their wages so that then actually even in the end Walmart's own sales might go up and certainly then the states individually don't have to shell out.
I mean, maybe in the short run there may be a little bit of that, but in the long run, I think the main contribution that that Walmart has made to economic growth over the last 10, 20 years is to reduce consumer prices significantly, especially in food. Right, and lowering all of those prices by, say, 20% is a way, way bigger contribution to everyone's welfare than a temporary stimulus from suddenly raising wages by a lot would be.
Josh?
So there are a few points to consider here. First, Walmart absolutely could afford to pay more. A study by Demos noted that the cost of imposing, say, a $25,000 a year wage floor for major retailers would actually be less even than what they spend on repurchasing its own stock. Walmart recently announced a $15 billion additional stock repurchase. That's something that makes a lot of money, a lot of value for the Walton family, which controls half the company's stock, controls almost half the slots on the Forbes list of the wealthiest Americans, but creates very little value for the American economy compared to putting money in the pockets of low-wage workers who would spend it. If the cost of that wage floor entirely was pushed onto consumers, studies have suggested we would be talking between 30 cents and 45 cents a shopping trip, not all of which would be borne by people who are low income, whereas all of Walmart's rank-and-file employees at the entry level are low income. The second thing to consider is the benefits that accrue to companies that pay workers better in terms of productivity and in terms of the turnover costs that are changed, as well as the benefit to the overall sector when more people are able to spend money at such companies. Walmart, of course, pays significantly worse than a company like Costco, but it also, studies suggest, pays worse even than its immediate competitors. The third thing we should think about here, though, is the question of who should decide. Should it just be Walmart executives who decide what's best for Walmart or what they think is best for the overall economy, or should workers actually have a voice in this? These workers, as I interviewed them in Arkansas and elsewhere, they will tell you they are not trying to abolish Walmart. What they are trying to do is to shift the balance in terms of decision making and in terms of workplace policies and in terms of how much of that wealth they take home. Walmart's response, based on credible allegations over the decades and over recent months, has been illegal and legal forms of suppression of workers' organizing. So the question isn't just what should Walmart pay, but who should get to decide what Walmart's business model looks like? Should it be entirely Walmart executives, or should there be some kind of countervailing force where Walmart workers get a voice in what happens?
Stan, I mean, if the numbers have been crunched, and it would appear that Walmart could alter its business model with minimal cost to itself or very minimal price rises for its customers, and everyone then wins. The profitability is only very minorly touched. The workers themselves have more money. American society benefits. Walmart's own profitability will benefit as well in the long run. Why would that be so difficult?
So there's two things that confuse me. The first one is framing this as something that would benefit Walmart strikes me as awkward. I think that the management of Walmart is in a better situation to assess what would raise its profitability than
well, I suppose what people often say is that Costco and others are showing much stronger and much healthier.
Again, those are not comparable
whereas
businesses.
Walmart is stagnating.
Also, Walmart's profit margins aren't that high. I mean, it's a super competitive business, a retail business. Of course, their profits in absolute numbers look huge, but once you divide them over the 2.2 million people they employ, it's actually not that much. But to the point of we should turn it into a workers' cooperative, I don't think those have worked particularly well. That's not how Walmart has created the enormous benefits it has created over time. And I think in the end, the only reason why Walmart is such a target is because it sells products that the people on the sort of on the left don't like aesthetically. It's a chain firm which they have a problem with in general unless they produce smartphones with round corners. I don't know. I don't see how Walmart would benefit from this. I don't see how a $25,000 pay floor would help, because then what do you get? Walmart is not going to hire any part-time employees. Walmart is going to screen way more aggressively when hiring first-year associates. And as you saw in the initial video, people get 4% pay rises after a year if they function well. It's well known that most of Walmart's management actually started out as one of those associates, something like 80% of them.
All right.
I think their model is sound and has helped out a lot of people.
Josh, I mean, that's the point then. This is the low end of the market. It's got to be like this. This is just how it is.
Well, where Stan and I agree is that Walmart, left to its own devices, Walmart managers are going to zealously pursue profit. And the fact that there would be benefits to Walmart as well as costs in paying people better doesn't mean that Walmart is going to concede without a demand. But the question is, given when you look at the history, the way that, for example, voters in some states have attempted to change the incentive structure, to move from a low road model to incentivizing more of a high road model, and have faced judicial and political obstacles to doing that, have been told that they can't. So now the question is, can Walmart workers move the needle? And we've seen in industries throughout American history, whether you're talking about the garment industry or the auto industry, the argument that if you don't like the job, you should leave, the argument that the industry cannot function if workers are paid any more than they are currently. And workers have defied that by organizing and creating a countervailing pressure to push those wages up and to change the relationship in terms of respect on the job. That's what we're seeing here at Walmart. And Walmart is a target because it's huge. Walmart is also a target because it's been a pioneer in finding ways to avoid and evade workers having a voice on the job. Whether you're talking about shutting down an entire store when workers organize there, eliminating an entire department in the United States when a handful of workers won a union election. So now we see this campaign, which is not at this point calling for collective bargaining, but is calling for changes in Walmart's business model and for the opportunity to organize for more changes without retaliation. This exemplifies some of the ways that the labor movement is grappling with how you take on both Walmart and the larger trends that Walmart represents.
Josh Idelson, thank you very much. Stan Voiga, thank you as well.
Thank
And
you.
that's all from the team in Washington, D.C. for now. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, where you can find more information about the program. And we want to hear from you. Share your ideas with us on Twitter. Our handle is AJ Inside Story AM.